Want to do something interesting. This clip has actually been around for quite a long time. The original was shot 25 years ago, believe it or not. Referring to an incident that happened almost 30 years ago. And that was back when I was a teenager at Garfield High School. You know what I'm saying? Me and my brothers, we got beat up by the police. And that incident was the impetus of my mom, 30 years now, you know what I'm saying, working in the field of police accountability and everything else. This video's been out there, and it's DJ Supreme LaRock, you know what I'm saying, if you're watching Supreme. Supreme went and found it somewhere, he put it on Facebook and everything else. And you know, this video is something I wanted to kind of share with the general public. At first I was like, yeah, I'm gonna wait till all this stuff is over with. And then, you know, cause never really, even though I'm a host of a show, never really want to make it about me. It's really about our city and what's going on in our city. But I thought that it was important on some context of things that I actually shared. The whole video is about 25 minutes. We've only clipped out about 3 minutes right here. But this is when I was on the show. I was produced by a guy named Dave Fisher, who passed away back in 2017. And I'm recounting my experience that night when I was 15 years old, when the Seattle Police Department, you know, pulled my brother and friends over right in front of our house there on 29th and Jackson. And to be honest with you, something that in a different neighborhood, if it was Laurelhurst, if it was Magnolia, if it was Queen Anne, everybody just would have went home that night. But you see, this was Seattle under Weed and Seed, where, you know, the gang unit used to come and take Polaroid pictures of people because the federal government was giving money for cities that said they had a gang problem. Seattle did have a gang problem, but not everybody was a gang member. Right. You know, my brother, he was just graduated from Garfield on his way to University of Redlands. Another, Derek went on, you know, electrical engineering at the University of Washington. You know what I'm saying? I went on to get a degree in geology and everything else. Like I said, in a different neighborhood and different discretion, the outcome might have been different 25 years ago. This is gonna play into a conversation that I've been telling people, that how we don't wanna continue generationally to have the same conversation. So imagine, this was me at my son's age when this show right here was recorded, and I recount some of the experience that night that, oddly enough, that we got beat up right here at the East Precinct, which is just 30 feet away from us, you know what I'm saying? So I want to play this and also talk about life experience. It can also lead into professionalism. You get what I'm saying? Because you'll see the video, I got every reason to be like, man, you know what? Every reason when I got maced, or every reason with this and that, to be like, you know, I got a lot of aggression. It took a lot of time to get over this experience, by the way. Anyways, I'll quit talking. There's about 3 minutes and we'll come back to it.
Do you want to fight? Do you want a piece of me and this and that? So we had a heated debate going on back and forth because my brother, he was an honor student at Garfield that year, graduated in '90. He was going to the University of Redlands. Another one of the fellas was going to the University of Washington, just graduated for his electrical engineering degree, and two other fellas, you know, were on their way. And you know, that was our argument. You know, they're college students. What are you stopping them for? They haven't broken any laws. You know, what's the big deal for 14 officers?
14.
You know, and so. From there, I guess they decided to arrest us. We were too big of a public nuisance for them. And they grabbed me first down the stairs. At that time, I wore glasses trying to look pretty for your TV.
Okay, so you weren't actually in the car. You were what, in the house?
They were in the car. I was in the house. I saw my brother being stopped by the police, and I came outside. Okay. You know, to join in with him. From there, after the arrest, well, during the arrest, I was grabbed. I was about 4 steps up. They grabbed me off the stairs, slammed me onto the police car. My glasses, which I was wearing then, came off, and I had really poor vision. I was pretty disoriented from there. But
now, was this one police officer that grabbed you?
Oh, yeah, it was one police officer at first, and there was another officer assisted him. And I was slammed onto the car, hit my chest, then my head, and my arrest was affected. And they got 2 other people. Then my brother last. They shackled his hands and feet. He was transported that way to the East Precinct. And once we got to the East Precinct, wow, they brought my brother out of the car. A female officer and 2 male officers brought him out the car. He was still shackled, mind you. The female officer proceeded to stomp his head into the cement. Talking about, oh, it's not funny now, is it? It's not funny now. I bet you're sorry now. Stomping his head. And
He's hitting you. You're saying he's putting his foot on the side of your head and smashing
my brother's
down.
head was just stomping into the cement, and boy, from there I knew it was serious. I wasn't scared to be arrested because my mother always told me, you know, if you're right, don't be scared to go to jail. We always saw growing up Dr. King going to jail because Chief Bull Connors was over there getting him off of something, you know, and he wasn't scared because he knew in the end, you know, morally, Dr. King was right. And that was the whole premise. You know, we were saying, not to say in my mind, I was saying, well, Dr. King went to jail, but that was the whole premise. We all knew the police arrest you now, but if you're right, don't be scared. So I wasn't scared until we got into the holding area. Mind you, my glasses are off, I'm disoriented, and the officer starts wailing away at me at the holding area, and it's a whole room full of white officers. And I'm saying, did you see that? Or I'm crying. Remind you, I'm a big fella now. Back then I was a little fella. I'm crying.
You were what? How old were you at this time?
I was 15 years old. I was about 6 foot, 160 pounds. And I'm just crying. Did you see that? Did you see that? Did you see that? And all I heard was just laughing by the officers. Oh, you must be hallucinating. You don't have your glasses on. From there.
So what were they hitting you on the side of the head or on the body?
Hitting me in my chest, my stomach area. You know, from there, I've never been so scared but so awakened at the same time. You know, I was awakened to the sense that this whole dream,
So, you know, like this was this show right here 25 years ago, and the incident that we're talking about almost 30 years ago. You know, at the time, you know, the city council today is very, I don't know, proactive, I guess you would say, about issues around police, things like that. 3 decades ago, no one really cared about some black kids on 29th and Jackson in the Central District who might have got beat up by the police. A few voices over the years at the time, Don Mason, of course, the late Cal Anderson, who was already, you know, looking for equality for a marginalized population. You know, and at the time there was no, all of these things are going on there, man. Nobody really believed in these things, and I remember even in the state legislature, you know, oddly enough, Booth Gardner, who helped start CAY, former Governor Booth Gardner, vetoed the gang bill that went down there to Olympia a few years after this incident because, you know, I mean, at the time he saw that it was like, you know, this wasn't a good thing for people, you know what I'm saying, in the black community. And, you know, over the years, whether it's you know, it's Fitzsimons at the time, and then Stamper, Grolikowski, a few others, O'Toole, Best, you know, I mean, I can say that is like, I guess what I'm trying to say is 3 decades, you know, 30 years, 3 decades. And for me, you know, as a journalist and everything else, actually, let me point this out. I did have my day in court, and you know, but the charges against the city had to drop the charges because there was really no case between me and my brothers and everything else, and we pursued it in the civil sense, and the firm McDonald Hogan Bayless, and at the time it was Tim Ford, and a name that people might know right now, Andrea Brennecke. And 3 decades ago, Andrea Brennecke was just a young, scrappy lawyer, everything else. Now she's in the Attorney General's office. And we had our day in court. I had a jury that definitely didn't look like me, you know. And they saw, you know, I think at the time that I finally went to court, an 18, 19-year-old young black, angry, you know, very angry young man. We lost our day in court, but we had it. And, you know, for me, went on to this career in media, communications, and journalism and everything else. And I'm sharing this Throwback Thursday kind of with everybody and sharing something about myself here to be that it's like, you know, through life experience, you know, I might have every reason to be like, well, man, I don't want to call it how it is. I don't want to be to the left or right. I don't want to be whatever. Got all the ammunition. And I sat there. But when the barricade was still there, the barricades were around the Western Barricade, and I understood how some people just yelled. They didn't want to hurt nobody. They didn't want to cause pain or harm to somebody, but they just yelled. And I know what that's like. It was 30 years ago. I know what that was like. And you see, I got the wide here. I got my son. I asked him to sit down. He's a production assistant on the set. This guy is spitting image. I wish I had that hairline back. To be honest with you, here's another generation. And I just wanted to share something with everybody, just kind of around a family thing here. I don't know if you can bring this in. You probably got to widen it out just a little bit here on me. This camera right here, my grandfather, James Salisbury Sr., brought this camera back from Europe, World War II. You know, he brought the camera back from Europe in World War II, and when he got off, you need to go back out wide, please, wider, Daryl. Thank you. So you can put me in the shot as well. I appreciate it. So my grandfather, James Salisbury Sr., came back from Europe in World War II, and he brought this Belfoca camera. And you know, I mean, I hear the story all the time. My grandfather arrived there in New York City, pressed in his dress clothes and everything, and he had saw a different life over in Europe. It wasn't all the segregation and everything in America. You know, this is in the 1940s, and got off the boat there in New York, you know, in his dress uniform. I told him, we don't serve niggas, you know. And went down there to Rocky Mount, North Carolina. And my dad tells me that when went to go pick up my grandmother in Alexandria, Louisiana, and they weren't, my grandmother, my grandfather and my dad weren't allowed in the actual train with the seats. They had to sit in the baggage car to make the journey from Alexandria, Louisiana to Rocky Mount, North Carolina. And it was a piece of wood that my grandmother sat on holding my dad. And that piece of wood is still there, you know, a family home in North Carolina. But anyways, my grandfather brought this camera, you know, and this is the same camera, and he gave it to my dad. And this is the same camera that inspired my dad. My dad went from a small town in North Carolina and went to Elizabeth City State and Brooks Institute in Santa Barbara, and on to a career where 50 years ago, my father opened the very first black-owned photography studio in the Pacific Northwest, thanks to the help of Mr. Fitzgerald Beaver of the Facts newspaper, right? My dad still redlined over here in Seattle. No access to capital, no access to this and that and everything else, you know? My father gave me this camera 2 years ago or a year ago. And, you know, I'm continuing, you know, his legacy. And we've, you know, his studio was here 50 years ago, half a century ago. And, you know, here we are with Converge and everything else. And one day, this camera, which is 75 years old, will make its way to my son's hands. The whole point, people have listened to me on this stream over the last, I don't know, 50 days, especially early on when we were still streaming in the protests. And you heard me say things like, man, what we need here in Seattle is an Emerald City where my son and my grandson or granddaughter, I'm not in any hurry by the way, aren't asking the same questions that James Salisbury Sr. and James Salisbury Jr. and Omari Salisbury have been asking. My hopes is that in another 20 years, this Emerald City that we all aspire to be will actually be a reality. So just wanted to share that with the audience today, and we'll go to break right now.
Welcome back to the Morning Update Show. I'm your host, Trae Holiday. And right before the break, Omari, thank you for sharing such a great personal Throwback Thursday. I think when you were talking about how you could have been looking at the police and always asking folks, we may not agree, but let's work to understand.
I mean, this is what I'm saying is that, and a lot of times people don't understand the commitment that people have had for change and everything else, in the city. And there's so many elders in our community. Of course, I talk about my mom. We talk about Elder Don Mason. We talk about people in Nana Kabibi and things like that. But it's been decades, And for me, everybody has a path, Some people to see the things that we want to see, and I think everybody in Seattle says they want a better Seattle. Right. If you ask the people on the left, if you ask the people on the right, they want a better Seattle. And the one thing that I can do is through a camera, through a lens, through observation, be able to show people and show the world what we see. Yeah. And that's what I'm tasked to do. And what I'm saying? And I'm obligated to do to honor the legacy of James Salisbury Sr., to set an example for young O, and to do my very best for our city, for our Emerald City. Are we always perfect here? No, man, we mess up every single day. But, our mission, despite past history, despite running with the police, but despite all of these kind of things, the mission is clear for us. And which is very much to be able to tell the story, how we see it.
Absolutely. And it really does give the audience that balanced view. What I hear from folks every day just about is how well the coverage is. They're like, they don't watch anything else. They're really watching what we're doing right here on the Morning Update Show, because you've done a great job to make sure it's balanced. Like you said, having Spog here yesterday is a great example of that. We know a lot of people, felt some type of way. Now we can bring Charlene Allows family in. That's what it's about.
And the flip side of that is Charlotte, the one of the things that did come out of yesterday's show is we've actually been on air for going on 4 or 5 months, well before protest season. Yeah. And we've never had people be like, man, bring Charlene on, bring Charlene's family on and everything else. And one of the things is that now, we've had the Spog here. He made the statement that has really inflamed the community, to be honest with you. But Charlene Allows family will be on here, and I don't think they've had long format to be able to talk about any of their the history around Charlene's case. So on Monday, they'll have about 90 minutes. Wow. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know if all of that platform for that family and everything else has actually been out there. We're happy to welcome Charlene's family, on Monday. And we're happy to welcome, anybody who has a relevant viewpoint about what's happening here in Seattle. And this change that's on the horizon. Yeah,
there's a lot of change brewing. I know you got to check in with some artists also working towards some change on Community Voices.
Yeah, so yesterday was Community Voices. And, I've done the first 3 episodes, and man, everybody be happy to know that we've got a new guest host that's going to be in for the next 2 episodes. So I finally get some time off there. But we talked to different artists. The title of the show yesterday was At the Art of the Matter, and talked about protest and protest art and things like that. And people have all kinds of different views. And I recommend that actually people watch that, especially people who are like, it's a difference between taggers and actually the people who are painting murals and all this kind of stuff. It was Wolf actually gave a good explanation around that. But we had Julie C., Brian Culpepper, Carolyn Hitt of Blue Cone Studios. Then you had Chai, and then Wolf, who actually painted the installation that's here at the Stout Building. But they were all here yesterday. And Culpepper said a few things that actually caught our attention. And so we have a clip of him right here.
Now, me being black and the Black Lives Matter movement, my blackness is my activism. I've been black for 40 years in America, which has kind of made me an American target. And I'm not going to talk about the struggle, but I will tell you that pressure busts pipes, but it also builds diamonds. And I fought my whole life. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to throw bricks. I didn't want to pick up gas cans and throw them back at the police. I didn't want to scream NWA lyrics. What I wanted to do was win them over with love. What I wanted to do was inspire creative thought through my artistic contribution. I wanted to restore faith in humanity through my artistic contribution. Because if people come down there fighting for us, how can they really get behind someone who's screaming? You can't understand people when they're always angry, even though they have lots of reasons to be angry. If I could show them something they haven't seen, perhaps a black man minding his own business, being cordial, and showing the beauty that we possess, because we have a lot of beauty. Suffering builds character. Mm-hmm. We've suffered a lot. We have a lot of character. We have a lot more character in one pinky than most people have in their whole body. And I'm not just talking about people of color. I'm talking about artists, period, you know? So I said, let me come down there. Let me check it out. I came down there. I loved it. A lot of people said, hey, there's just a bunch of white people down there. There's no black people even down there. And they turned it into a party. But let me tell you why it was a party, why it became a party, and why it became such a celebration. There was too much beauty around to be angry so much. Yes, we had issues, and yes, we had problems with the police, and yes, we had demands from the mayor. But when you've seen everybody singing, dancing, the beauty about art is the artist gets to capture his pain, and he gets to display it and profit from it. Meanwhile, he gets to release himself from that pain.
Wow, release himself from that pain. I think what I really experienced in terms of the art all around CHOP was just that. Even when you would watch some of the artists and the way that they were putting that paint to the canvas, to the wood, to the building, to wherever they were, you could see that there was full expression happening there. And one of the things that he just said there that I really, really appreciate is that the character of people that suffer. There's a lot. You just showed it earlier with your Throwback Thursday. It's the same resonance for me, where it's like you don't have to go toward the extreme emotion. You can actually contain it, learn from it, and speak toward real change. And that's what it, you know, when you were young on that show, you weren't up there like, yeah, man, the police did this, they did that to me, man, they messed up. You explained it in a way that people could hear it.
Let me tell you though about that. And I know we're out of segment, but you know, it was my mom and actually and people like Andrea Brenneke who kept me public speaking, kept me, one, it allowed me to be able to let go. But two, it refined my public speaking. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Of where I'm like, man, I'm willing, you know, my mom used to take me down to Olympia. You know, I used to testify down there when I was in high school. I'd be down there, and also I was a page down in Olympia as well. But, you know, she kept me down there and engaged and involved in the process and everything else. And kept me engaged in the legislative process as well, learning how things work and all these kind of things. And that's why it's like, man, for me, no matter the life journey, you know what I'm saying, what's most important for me is that we use these tools that we have to be able to, like I said, deliver on a street level view to the public as to what we see.
Yeah, and it sounds like that's exactly what he was doing when he explained, you know, because I actually experienced very similar things that he experienced in terms of hearing the chatter about, oh, there's no black people down there, you know, it's all white people, they're dancing, they're turning it into a party. And then you come down here and you see the beauty of all of these volunteers, all of these protesters helping each other out, mutual aid, all of this food. You know, people were celebrating that, I think, that spirit. And so, and you know, him being down here and saying that, I'm like, that's actually some of the things that I experienced many days coming down here, because what I was witnessing was the resilience of the people. And it was a showcasing of when people get together and they do care about other people, there is some brilliance and beauty that can come out of that. Now, he's right. There was some other issues that ended up surfacing, but what I saw on some of those very beginning days was this beauty of like, look, people were excited that they could do this together. And that is what I love. And I'm hoping that they pull together an art show. I hope there's enough artists that have said, please, please use my art.
There's a lot of art that's actually Jake was down there. He saw there's a lot of art that's down there at King Street Station. So we'll see what comes of that. We'll keep the public up to date. We're going to take a break right now. You know, it's been a very interesting week for us. We started off early on in the week with a lot of people from the city side. Of course, we had Kara Maine Hester, PhD, from the city budget office, who went over how the budgets work, Budget 101, and the Seattle Police Department's budget. And then yesterday we had the SPOG, the Seattle Police Officers Guild. Today we have recalldurkin.com. Oh, you guys are quiet over there now. .org. See, that's why I asked. We have the team from recalldurkin.org in here. You talking about fair and balanced show, man.
Yeah.
So recalldurkin.org, they're up next. We're going to take a short break right now. You're watching the Morning Update Show. All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. My name is Omari Salisbury. So now we're moving into the guest section of the show. And like I said earlier in the week, we talked to the city budget office. We had the police guild here yesterday. And today we have the team from recalldurkin.org. We have Grace right here, also joined by Alan. Welcome.
Yeah, very happy to be here.
All right, man, it's good to have you here. You know what I'm saying? We have a clip, and I think we'll get to it here in a minute, where I think it was a speech you gave. Was that right out there in front of the East Precinct?
Yeah,
you gave that speech?
almost 6 weeks ago in the Chop Chaz region.
Yeah. In the Chop Chaz region, you know, if you put it in Google Maps, you'll find Chop Chaz region right there. Well, actually, let's play the clip first if you have it over there. Oh yeah, let's play the clip, and then I'm gonna follow up with some questions. Oh, and by the way, look, Mom, this is these people. There's some profanity on there. It's not my fault. Don't be mad at me. I'll give everybody fair warning. You know, I told them my mama gonna be watching this show. So, anyways, we'll play the clip. Oh yeah.
Tried to figure out how is it that so many minorities in America have found true liberation, but there's others who haven't yet, and there's missing pieces. So what I see right here is social power. Communities coming together and working together to pull each other up. This is the start of that. The next steps are to transform our social power into political action and political power. And then that directly leads to exactly what my brother was just speaking about here, economic power. So we've got to go from social to political to economic power. And that is how we achieve true liberation. So, how many of you all think that Dictator Durkin is an ally in that struggle? Okay. So how many of you want Dictator Durkin gone? Now, are you willing to beg and plead for her to leave on her own schedule? Are you going to put your hopes and dreams into impeachment? Because we all know that can fail, right? Okay, so what I need from each and every one of you who believes in this part of this message is for you to go online right this second. Go look for recall_Durkin on Twitter, and to follow us on change.org/recalldurkin. We don't have to wait. We don't have to beg. We don't have to use impeachment. We can recall her butt right now. And 26,000 of you have already signed on, okay? Now I need you all to go sign on to that petition and follow our work. We have a group of people, we have 3 lawyers and legal assistants who are drafting the paperwork to recall her butt right the fuck now. The only thing that's been slowing us down is that almost every single day we turn on the news and we find out some queer folks who are unrelated to this protest are being tear gassed in their goddamn apartments. 3-month-old babies are foaming at the mouth. What the fuck is that? War crime. That's a war crime. That's exactly right. So every day, our legal filing grows longer and longer and longer. And we're still analyzing her emergency orders and her illegal skateboards and illegal light bulbs. Because if you dig into these filings, they are complex and they are detailed. And we're doing that hard work. And we will do it together. So the next movement, the next step for this work is we got to go from 26,000 digital signatures to 50 to 70,000 physical signatures, okay? So that means I'm going to be back out here in about a week, and we're going to have paper, and we're going to have clipboards, and you're going to have to go to your neighborhood, and you're going to have to spread this message across all of Seattle, okay? Because we will recall Durkin, and we will send a message to everyone who thinks maintaining the status quo is somehow progress, incremental progress. That's bullshit. We want change. We want change to happen rapidly, and we want it to support all of our community. And the only way we can do that is by removing the people who stand in the way. And right now, that is dictator Durkin. Thank you for your time.
All right, so Ellen, all profanity to the side.
Many apologies to your mom.
Okay, I was gonna say, she gonna be calling, make sure that boy Alan give you an apology, son, out there using that language. So, I mean, you said a lot right there in the video, so I mean, thanks for passing it along, but 6 weeks ago, maybe this didn't even seem like a reality. I mean, I saw that the court actually threw out 6 or 7 different filings to be able for a recall. One, first of all, can you tell us, how was your filing with the court able to stick while all the other ones were dismissed?
Yeah, a lot of the details of why our filing was able to stick is because there was such a strong community here around the mutual aid aspect. And that very quickly led to people seeing abuses by the police, seeing missteps by the city government, and specifically missteps by our mayor, Jenny Durkin, and starting to reach out and say, look, we've had these terrible experiences and someone's got to do something. And so a lot of that came from direct on-the-ground reporting from folks who ended up becoming part of the movement, part of this campaign. And a lot of that also came from your reporting and others' reportings. And so that core evidence.
Everybody uses my reporting, man. You wouldn't believe. On all kinds of sides of this issue, man, all far left, far right, my reporting is everywhere. But anyways.
Yeah, so I mean, the very first thing out of the judge's mouth at our oral hearing was that she had read everything. So we gave her over 90 pages of documentation of police abuses, of lack of oversight, of Jenny Durkin actively saying that she can't keep promises that she can't keep and things like this. So that's what really I think ultimately made a very strong and compelling argument. And it is a challenge to fly through the hoops correctly, legally speaking.
Right. One of the things I saw in reading up on this article was that the mayor yesterday, I guess when she's trying to get relief from this filing, she said that, man, she can't control the police as per the charter. I can pull up exactly here. Sorry, so we can get it exactly right. It's my other phone. But basically, it was just like, hey, man, you know what? I can't control the police because, the police are outlined in the charter. But she was very specific to mention the charter. Do you think that she's going to find any relief with that approach?
It's a challenging thing to dig through all of the previous precedents that could apply here. But in general, we're already hearing from former mayors and a number of people in city government who are saying that that's absolutely the wrong tack.
Well, and I would say this, and this is very important, and for people who follow this in City Hall, I'm not a lawyer, nor did I play one on TV. But the thing is that The mayor is saying that she can't control the police because the police department and chief is laid out in the charter, right? So let's keep that in mind. Now, when you ask Chief Best, did she close the East Precinct? She says no. We talked to Mike Solon yesterday. He was like, hey, everything starts at the top. But guess what? The city charter says that there has to be a police, you have to have basically a precinct and officers. So if Mayor Durkin is the one who everybody is implying but not saying directly closed the East Precinct, Mayor Durkin violated the same charter that it sounds like she's trying to throw Chief Best under. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's their issue there at City Hall. But if Mayor Durkin closed this precinct, that's a violation of the charter. And so now in this court filing, though, she wants to throw Chief Best under the bus, saying that Best has violated the charter. Anyways, I won't go off on that. That's how, you see that you connect the dots on that.
Yeah, so I mean, in a lot of ways, we've seen that there's a certain tension between who's making decisions here, and it's unclear who that is. And at the end of the day, the buck stops with the mayor, and that's why our recall targets the mayor. And then the final piece is there's actually some major news that broke last night, which is the 36th District Democratic Caucus is actually saying Jenny Durkin is not part of their party. She does not represent the Democratic values. And they are actually the third such Democratic caucus to say that within the last 3 days.
So momentum is growing. So I have a question for you, Grace. What makes you guys qualified for this? I mean, believe me, I did the 50 days of covering this. I've seen a lot of different people and a lot of different variables saying like, yeah, recall, do this and that. Why should people really, how are you guys qualified? What's your qualifications to do this? And I'm not saying that you have to have some law degree or anything like that. Why should people want to support your effort, as in you guys are the main people who are driving this? I know that it's lots of people who've signed on and everything else, but people are by signing your petition, they're trusting you. They're trusting your leadership. Why should people trust you?
I did a lot of recruiting in the beginning to bring on anybody who was interested and had a background and legal expertise and historical knowledge and ability to speak into what the charter should be and how that should represent the needs of the community. So it's an extremely diverse group of people. And then behind that, the recall process isn't really set up for lawyers, it's for voters. Because of campaign finance laws, it's difficult to get legal help on a process like this. So it's actually best for people who have specific knowledge of the process but aren't a member of the bar, which is a lot of people on the team.
Right.
And I have to point out that Mayor Durkin has something like 3 different legal groups protecting her. She has 2 private law firms plus the city attorney.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would like to ask the mayor's office, about this charter thing. If she's the one who closed the East Precinct, then she violated the city charter, and she kept the precinct closed. And then, and everything else. So, I mean, it's very interesting that the charter is the charter. It's kind of like the Constitution, man. You can't pick and choose. It's not a la carte. So, you know what I'm saying? Whoever closed that East Precinct violated the city charter, like 100%. But my question for you is, Mayor Durkin got a lot of praise before protest season about her leadership around COVID. City of Seattle, I mean, all kinds of people across America held City of Seattle up as an example around COVID, leadership around COVID, reactivity and everything else. Is there anything that's redeeming about Mayor Durkin that you're like, clearly you're recalled, so you're like, you want her out, but during her tenure here, is there anything that you felt that she's done right?
I think, unfortunately, she has a pattern of doing some things well and a very large number of things not so well. And so that large number of things that she has not done well is a particular pattern of failing to engage the community in an effective way. And this goes from everything from police violence to protest zones to bike lanes. Bike lanes? Yeah, so even bike lanes, she's completely failed at engaging the community. The 35th Avenue bike lane in the 4th District where I live, it turned into an utter calamity where they built it without the bike lanes, they disliked it, they put the bike lanes in, they ripped them out, and so I don't even know which state it is currently in, but they have tried basically every possible combination except the one the community asked for.
Yeah, I know the Central District, the whole time growing up, we wanted new sidewalks, but we ain't getting no sidewalks till it was gentrified, and now there's a bike lane. You know what I'm saying? And then in South Seattle, where the most people actually get hit by cars and everything, they get smacked by the light rail and all this other stuff, then there's no investment in bike lanes.
That's right.
And so, man, that's the whole gamut. So what are the next steps? Where exactly is your Recall Durkin effort at, and what are the next steps moving forward?
Yes, I can tell you exactly where we are on the online side of things. So online, we've engaged over 38,450 Seattle voters. I just looked it up right before we sat down. And those people have signed a change.org. That's basically just a giant mailing list. And then we have a core group of volunteers and then some smaller groups of volunteers. So we have about 1,000 people waiting in the wings to be able to go and collect signatures for us. And then Grace can talk more about the legal details.
Sure.
As you know, the mayor filed a motion for reconsideration before the same judge saying, like, this isn't my fault, I can't do anything about it. The judge just requested moments ago, maybe 30 minutes, that we submit a brief to respond to the filing, which is something that the judge has to ask for. We can ask her to ask for it, but now she's requested a response, so we'll be filing a brief probably on Monday morning to respond to the mayor. And then there's a timeline laid out for the appeal process, so we have to assume that the mayor will appeal to the Washington State Supreme Court.
Yeah, but until we get a cease and desist as far as petitioning goes, we're basically still very much out there. We have a couple of last bureaucratic hoops we got to jump through to be able to actually finally print out the document and start to receive the messages. So absolutely follow us on Facebook, get on the change.org, get on the Twitter, and we'll be out there.
Right, and these 50,000 signatures you need, these are actual on paper, pen and paper signatures.
That's right.
So you guys have to canvass the city and get out and get your signature. So say everything does move forward, you go to the Supreme Court, they give an expedient judgment, and you go forward, you get 50,000 votes. How long, or 50,000 signatures? How long after you get your signatures and they're certified does something go onto a ballot?
Yeah, do you want to take that case?
They usually aim to put it onto an existing election, and so depending on how soon we get all of the signatures we need, that'll time it. And the time frame is 45 to 90 days from the time that they certify the signatures.
And it's, to my understanding, it's just an up or down vote. It's like a vote of no confidence, right? So It's either like, yes, she should be recalled, or no. And then if the vote is yes, is it like instantaneously, or is there some kind of process for that?
Yeah, I believe she's pretty much out that day.
And then Gonzalez becomes the mayor?
Yeah, my basic read of it is that, it would go to the city council president, so Gonzalez, yeah.
We are still confirming with the King County Department of Elections that that's the case.
The saga continues. I tell people, I'm like, man, covering protest season, man, it's like peeling an onion. You know what I'm saying? It's just, the layers and layers of this just keep coming out. Let me ask you this. On this recall Durkin.org measure here, where is your support coming from? As in, not necessarily financial support or fundraising, but like, are you finding that, okay, it's the left, you know what I'm saying? Are you finding it's a lot of people on the right as well as in the middle, indifferent? Like, are you finding that it's just a portion of an ideology of the city that feels some kind of way about Mayor Durkin, or are you finding a cross section of the city?
So I would say we are seeing a groundswell of support. Like, we are just seeing absolute that 50,000, the 38,000 signatures we've received, that was almost before any media coverage. That was all word of mouth. So what we're hearing from people individually are that, they're obviously Seattle's a center-left city, but we're hearing from the far left, and we're hearing from the center left, and we're hearing from the dead center, and they're all saying Durkin absolutely has to go. Now, these are people who may not even agree on all of the demands, but they're saying Durkin is a problem to reaching those.
So you bring up something interesting then. Does that mean that the far right in our city, for the whole time that she's been in office, that are like, yeah, we hate this mayor, she's too liberal. So does that mean that now the far right are the ones who are defending Durkin to want to keep her in office?
So that's actually the crazy thing. You would imagine that they might, but because Durkin has chosen literally every position, she's also pissed off the hardcore conservatives in town. So they think that, from the conservative perspective, and once again, we're a bipartisan campaign. We don't have a dog in the race as far as politicians go. So when we hear from conservatives, the position that they articulate to me is along the lines of Durkin should have prepared better by beating protesters more. And they think that that's a lack of leadership. Now, I agree with the lack of leadership, that preemptive measures like years ago, improving the economic situations of people in the city and paying deep attention to the police conduct, that would have prevented this type of protest. And so we agree on this idea that there's preventative work that the government can do, and we all agree that Durkin's not the person who's going to do it.
Yeah, so it's just going to be interesting, like especially if the judge rules in your favor, and this proceeds, because there is also an element in the city more to the right who's like they would rather take the Durkin they know than you see what I'm saying? It's like, okay, well, man, they know what this mayor is and what she's going to do or willing to do and everything else, but they might not necessarily want to open that door for, say, Gonzalez now to be the mayor, or somebody who's even more left of Mayor Durkin to come into her seat. I think personally what you're going to find is that you're going to find that there's a group here on the right for sure that are now, this is like if you're into politics and stuff, what's going on in Seattle right now is very interesting. Because you have people who you never thought would be in one camp or another camp who are coming out right now, either to kick the mayor out or to try to save the mayor's job. So it's a very interesting space. And I mean, things like this, we're always telling people who watch the show, this is why you want to be involved in the process, no matter what neighborhood you live in. And this actually impacts every single neighborhood in our city. And, whether you agree with recall Durkin or you don't, it's important that people are engaged in understanding this process. Right? How can people, if they want the mayor out, man, how do they catch up with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Head over to recalldurkin.org. There's all the social buttons at the bottom. We're recall_Durkin on Twitter, recall Durkin on Facebook, and change.org. So get on the mailing list, fill out volunteer forms. We're not hurting too bad for donations, but obviously donations help, especially once we're getting boots on the ground. We've got to get masks and PPE for everyone sort of problems. And then other than that, if you have a printer, if you have 10 friends and a printer, you're a signature gatherer. So you can come to our website and learn how you can print out these yourself, train up, become a signature gatherer, and collect all your friends' signatures and mail it in to us.
You guys are organized out here, huh? Yeah. This is serious effort.
Very serious.
All right, well, let's see. I mean, hopefully you guys can drop back in, keep us updated, let us know how things are progressing there in the court. This whole city charter issue is very interesting, though, and I mean that's an interesting argument. It'll be interesting when it goes to court if the judge makes that connection that under the charter, Mayor Durkin is saying like, hey, the police did their own thing, but also under the charter, it says that we're obligated to have a precinct here. And that's where who made the order to close the precinct. Nobody's willing to just say like, yeah, it was Mayor Durkin. Chief Beth said it wasn't her. Michael Solon yesterday said chain of command starts with the mayor, but no one's willing to be like Mayor Jenny Durkin closed these precincts. Yeah. And if she did, it's definitely a violation of the city charter. Grace, Elliot, thank you so much.
This is Alan.
Alan, I'm working too hard.
And you've been working really hard, so we just wanted to take a moment and recognize your hard work, because we know you hadn't had a chance to sleep and all that stuff.
I haven't. Wow.
So we just wanted to say thank you so much for creating a platform for all sides of the discussion, to be able to come and have a discussion with you, and we've really appreciated that.
Your work has also independently contributed a lot to our case, and I know it's made a difference in our arguments before the judge, and we really appreciate that.
Well, man, thanks. I mean, when we're out here covering this stuff, we're just, it's really coming at us live. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and there isn't any kind of lean to it. It's just literally what we're seeing. So, I mean, I appreciate this, and And most importantly, I accept this on behalf of our staff here. You know, people see me, but you know, it's a lot of people who work hard on this behind the scenes. Yeah, I'm gonna go to break before you make me cry. I've been crying too much. Man. Thank you so much. You're watching the Morning Update Show. Welcome back to the Morning Update Show. Yeah. It's like, man, it looks like this Recall Durkin people, they got a lot of momentum, huh?
They really do, and it looks like they are on the money. They're like, hey, we got step one, step two, they're ready.
A lot of the filings got thrown out. A lot of the judge didn't find any merit. That theirs is the only one that the judge actually found some merit to proceed with. And then, you know, I mean, of course the mayor now has filed an appeal, basically. I'm sure it's a different word for it legally. And so the judge will hear that. But like I said, it's very interesting, and this comes back down to the city charter. And we're gonna send an official inquiry down there to the mayor's office. So I'll let you guys know, Kelsey, all you guys, we just want to know who exactly ordered the closing of the East Precinct. To close that precinct was 100% against the city charter. And especially right now, like I said, the mayor and her filing, you know, they're pointing to the charter. She's pointing to the charter at Chief Best, you know what I'm saying, to be like, man, I don't control the police. You know what I'm saying? It's in the charter. So, you know, we only walk through these doors that people open.
Right.
They open the door talking about the charter. So Mayor Durkin's office, we would 100% want to know who ordered the closure of the East Precinct, and especially because the closure, you know, it runs afoul of the city charter, this same charter that you brought up in defense or of trying to find relief against this Recall Durkin effort.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. I mean, we've been asking that question for a while now. Clearly, it's now the ball is in their court to really respond. I mean, we've been putting it out there, and I think it's been really some confusion in the public's eye, you know, because when you hear from the mayor and when you hear from the chief, the two people who you think that decision rests with, and neither one of them are saying it was them.
Neither one. I mean, and like I said, Solon yesterday refused to be like, Mayor Durkin ordered it closed. You know what I'm saying? He refused to be like Chief Best ordered it closed. He was just like, well, it starts at the top and the mayor's at the top. So I don't know, man. It seems like it's some kind of trade secret that's floating around City Hall as to exactly, you know, who put the order in to close the precinct. But I mean, these questions definitely aren't going to go away. Speaking of questions, we did a follow-up in the Seattle Police Department here. We did a follow-up regarding Mike Solon's statement yesterday that Charlene Olaus committed suicide by cop. You know, we just like to always follow up with people. We reached out to Sergeant Lauren Truscott, the full email we'll put up on our blog so people can read through it. I'll just read the first few sentences here. Hello, Omari. Thank you for your inquiry regarding the Guild President Mike Solon's comments regarding the tragic death of Charlena Lyles. Please note that the statements by any member of the Guild are not statements of the department. The department's official statements with respect to this incident have been previously produced in the form of responses to 2 sets of City Council inquiries and the finding of the Force Review Board. The structure set under the consent decree to critically examine serious use of force and tactics around force relative to policy and training. And then Sergeant Truscott put some links that are here that have all the city's findings and everything else. We'll put that up on our website, whereweconverge.com. That'll probably be up there right after the show. But clearly, the Seattle Police Department, officially as a department, is distancing themselves from Solon's comments about suicide by cop. And of course, Charlena Lyles' family will be here on Monday morning.
Yeah, and that is where we can really get that balance of the story. Once again, hearing from both sides, it's very clear that that was necessary. And again, we do know police statements from before. None of those statements actually said that she was committing suicide by cop. So when Mike Solon said that yesterday, I think it shocked all of us.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like you said, it's about balance and everything else. And the reason we didn't even bring up any of the shootings and things like that is oftentimes, we hear the same thing. Like, we can't talk about that. It's under investigation. We can't talk about this. We can't talk about that. We didn't bring up Charlena Lyles yesterday.
Right.
What we brought up was mental. The actual conversation is that what Chief Best was saying about mental health and what a lot of decriminalized and creative justice said about mental health were very parallel, which they are. If you look at Chief Best's words, she was saying that a lot of mental health stuff could be done by community. And if you look at creative justice to decriminalize Seattle, they say a lot of the same things.
Right.
We never brought up Charlena Lyles because yesterday's conversation was more about either what happened with the protests or how the union works and everything else. And Solon brought that up, and you're right. I was totally shocked on the statement. And I think that to be able to create fairness and balance, not knowing all the facts around Charlena's case, it's better for us to be able to have the family come here than for somebody like me or you who's ignorant going up against an actual police officer who knows all the facts as they see it. And if we don't know all the facts, we do this story a disservice to argue on something that we don't know the facts of. So Charlena Lyles' family will be here on Monday.
Absolutely. And just being in protest situations with families of victims, you let those families speak on behalf of those victims. That is proper. That is the way to do this. And again, coming from that kind of just spirit of being balanced and fair, that's the way to do it. I'm very happy that their family is able to come on Monday.
If we knew that the plan was to bring up Charlena Lyles by name, then we definitely would have had somebody from Charlena Lyles' family here to discuss that. But all of our questions were policy oriented questions and things like that. So definitely a curveball, but we are where we're at. You know what I'm saying? They said you sit where you stand. And so this is where we're at. But also there's a lot of people in Seattle who don't know this story, Charlena Lyles. There's a lot of people who watch this show right now. They're like, they keep saying Charlena Lyles. Let me look it up and research it or whatever. So some good things that are happening now. This is a conversation that needs to occur in our city. Is going to occur. It's already occurring. It's already people talking. And then, Monday, we'll discuss further. And these conversations that really need to happen between community and police, here they are. They're rolling out right in front of our eyes.
Absolutely. And to be honest, it's something that we talked about for so long on the community perspective. So long. Well, what are the resolutions? How do you deal with this? What is the middle ground? What does that look like? And so here we are seeing it happen. To be honest, I'm very much happy to be a part of it because I get to sit here in the studio and watch things like this unfold, and then our audience gets to see it. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and people should also realize too that if you're talking about impactful change, and I think that we're used to such a fast food kind of instantaneous thing like that. If you're really looking for this institutional, long-term sustainable change, no argument is going to be resolved in a 60-second show.
Right.
I mean, we can ask our elders who've been on this for a long time, like a Representative Mason, like a Nana Kabibi, a Dr. Maxine Mims. For these guys, it's been decades. So anybody who's watching and they're like, man, it's 42-minute show, everything's supposed to, but our role in this is starting the conversation and then being able to invite as many of you guys into it. So
yeah, there we go.
Looks like we're a bit over. Time to get out of here. I think we'll take a stand.
Gotta do it.
So back again tomorrow morning update show. We got a lot going on tomorrow. Nikki disappeared. But we've got an action packed show tomorrow, as they say. Tomorrow at 11 a.m. and then of course on Monday we have the Seattle Times, their digital team, and then we'll have the family of Charlene Laus. But we're back again here tomorrow 11 a.m. Thanks so much for your viewership. Peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Sing it again now. Whoa. The victory is won. Victory is won. Victory is won. Lift every voice and sing.